It's a reactant. Means it's endo. Okay? Now, if it's endothermic, what does that tell us about delta H?
It's positive.
It's positive. All right? What can you tell me about the states?
They're the same.
They're all the same. So if all the states are the same, what do we look at? We look at the moles. So how many moles do I have on the reactant side? I have 1 plus 3, which is 4 moles. And I go to how many moles on this side?
2.
So if I go from 4 moles to 2 moles, does my disorder increase or decrease? It decreases. For those of you who weren't here, think about babysitting. If you go from 4 children to 2 children, does your disorder increase or decrease? Babysitting kids.
Why babysitting? Like, you could use anything.
Right.
4 to 2 decreases. Like,
Okay.
You went from 4 cookies to 2 cookies. Like 4.
I'm just thinking about kids running around. There's a lot of them.
You want kids? Tired of them.
Tired children. Getting out of this job in 2 years. Now, delta S. If it decreases, is it positive or negative?
negative.
It's negative. All right, so now you got to use your equation. Delta G equals delta H minus T delta S. What do we say delta H was up here? Positive minus, we don't need the temperature. You said delta S was what? Negative. So we said these two multiply, so we get what? And when this is a positive, so what happens when you add 2 positives? It's positive. So delta G is positive. So are we spontaneous or non-spontaneous? Non-spontaneous.
I'm spontaneous.
All right. Everybody got it? Now, that's what those of you who were absent missed, being able to answer those 6 questions. It is not very difficult.
It doesn't seem like it.
It is not difficult, which is why I said you should be able to catch up on that and be ready to go tomorrow. Okay? Now, we're going to move on to the homework, which was 1 through 6. Those of you who are not here, the paper is right here on my desk if you would like one. The front side we did in class. The back side was 1 through 6, which was homework. If you don't want it, it's fine too. So, for those of you who did the homework, number 1. Yeah. Well, not Laisha. I would assume you'd already pulled it out.
You want one? Where are they?
Right there in the corner by the tissues.
Right, he would have done it anyway.
Hey, Mr. Reed. Yo, look at Mr. Reed.
All right. All right, that must really be true, Victory, because you're not holding a grade in your hand, so she's probably just being complimentary, unlike Faith over there.
I do. I love Victory. She's always so pretty.
All right, so if we look at number 1, you there now, Laisha? You got your paper? Okay. So what conditions will always give us something that's spontaneous? We need delta G to be negative, right? So what sign would delta H have to be? Negative, and delta S would have to be what? Positive. So what will give us delta G that's positive? Delta H would have to be what? And delta H would have to be what? Negative. Now, the situation that's indeterminate. We talked about those on Friday. We said that's when they're both the same. Both negatives or both positives. So, which one favors a low temperature? All right, favors enthalpy, and a high temperature favors entropy. Okay? Now, number 4. This is what we just did up there. So, the reaction that you have there, will it be spontaneous or non-spontaneous? Well, always or never. So, if you have this equation, all right, sodium hydroxide has a solid. We just put the solid there. Na is aqueous, and OH is aqueous. So we need to figure out what our delta H is and what our delta S is. That way we can figure out what delta G is. All right? Where was the energy? I left it off. All right, plus energy. I didn't write that. Plus energy is over here. Go away. All right, so is this endo or exothermic? All right, where's the energy?
On the product.
On the product side. All right, so I heard exo out there. Is it exo? Yes. So if this is exo, is it positive or negative? It's negative. All right, what can you tell me about the disorder? Are we increasing or decreasing if we go from a solid to an aqueous? We're increasing, so is it positive or negative?
Positive.
It's positive. So delta H minus T delta S, negative minus a positive. What happens when these multiply?
Negative.
So what happens when we add two negatives?
Negative.
You get a negative. So if it's negative, are we spontaneous or non-spontaneous? We're spontaneous. All right, so the question said, will the reaction always or never or sometimes be spontaneous if we get a negative? Is it always, sometimes, or negative? Never if we get a negative. It's always spontaneous because we got a negative.
Miss Wild this, it's made a gas.
If it made a gas, then it's going to be a chemical reaction.
I was right.
No, it's the wrong.
Fill it.
No.
Well, that's the color.
Take the lid off, see if it makes a psh sound. Did it?
Yeah.
Then it made a gas.
First of all,
What?
it's supporting you. It changed colors, so.
That's just the dye in the whatever she's dissolving. So what? Sometimes would be if both of these are positive or both of those are negative would be sometimes. They have to be the same side. Okay? All right. The last one, or number 5 rather, is energy plus 2H2 is a gas plus O2 is a gas goes to 2H2O is a gas. All right, so we need to know delta H, delta S, delta G. So what's delta H? Endo or exo? So it is positive or negative? Is it increasing or decreasing? All right, what can you tell me about the gas? Is it the same state or different state?
Different shade.
Oh, well, I thought it says liquid.
Does it?
Yeah, it says liquid.
Oh, you're right. I wrote it down wrong. You're right, Linda. All right, so it's a liquid. So we go from gas to liquid. So the state does what? It changes to liquid. So is it increasing or decreasing? It's decreasing. So if it's decreasing, is it positive or negative?
Negative.
All right, so plug it into delta H minus T delta S. We have a positive minus a negative. What happens when we do this?
Positive.
So what happens when we add two positives?
Positive.
So will we always be spontaneous, never be spontaneous, or sometimes be spontaneous? If we get a positive. Never. Non-spontaneous, so we will never be spontaneous.
So why is there sometimes? I don't know.
All right, so the sometimes comes from the next one. So you have energy plus H2O is a solid, goes to H2O as a liquid. So what is delta H?
Endothermic.
It's endothermic, so it's going to be what? All right, what can you tell me about delta S? I heard it.
Yeah.
It increases, so it's going to be what?
Positive.
Anytime they're the same, it's going to be sometimes.
Wait, how do you know it was increased?
Or indeterminate. You can't decide what delta G is. You can't decide if it's spontaneous or non-spontaneous without numbers because they're both positive or both negative. It would work the same way if they're both negative. You need the size of the temperature.
How'd
So
you
what?
get the delta S?
The delta S came from changing from a solid to a liquid.
Okay.
It increased. What?
Where can I throw my yogurt away?
In the trash can at the far side of the room.
It's over here now.
In the bathroom.
As long as it's way over there by the door, you can throw it away in the trash can in here. Just don't throw it up here in this trash can.
In her room.
I just don't want to smell it.
In her room.
I'm not at that back trash can. Okay, maybe Mr. Bowers' room stink. I don't care. As long as it's not my room.
You don't care.
All right, any other questions before we move on? All right. Now, that's half of the quiz tomorrow.
Oh, no,
Now let's talk about the other half.
We keep playing, she might put something in our trash can.
It's entirely possible, which is why I told you to throw it in this trash can, just the one at the door.
You put it in the
She may have gone outside. Who knows where she went? Somebody locked the door.
She heard
Throw it in
that.
the outside trash can. Okay.
All right. So, chemical equilibrium.
No, ma'am.
So the new thing they learned today is gonna be on the quiz.
Yes.
So
You have to be able to write K, calculate K.
this and Friday.
Friday is on the quiz.
This and Fridays are on the quiz tomorrow.
Yes. What we just went over. Look, the opening I just closed out are 2 questions on the quiz tomorrow. Laid out exactly like what was in the opening.
Can you bring it up again after class ends? 'Cause I didn't write the question.
I think I can find something that looks like it in your homework. I am too, but guess what? We still have about 3 weeks.
Anyways, also.
I'm gonna count the days.
All right, don't write that. Don't write it.
No.
That, all I need is the title.
Okay.
All right. All right, everybody got the title?
No.
It's 2 words. Write it down.
We getting there, friend. That's what got your notes out.
It takes other things. You gotta get out a pen, you gotta get out,
The notebook.
Right.
Y'all need to get it together.
Girl, tell us about it. We failed.
Life is just murdering right now.
I have a scene.
You heard that?
Some heroes.
Y'all there yet?
I don't even know what it is.
All right. Now you can write. Now, equilibrium. I've changed the definition a little bit because we're going to talk about chemical equilibrium today.
I'm gonna borrow some tape this wall.
Okay? So I've changed the definition to alter the words to fit a chemical reaction. All right? So it's an equilibrium is a condition in which the rate of a forward reaction
Go slower.
equals the reverse reaction. It might be go slower.
No,
All right.
I'm saying you need to talk slower because I can't see it. So I was just listening to you, but you're over there. The forward reaction, what?
Equals the reverse reaction. Now, in parentheses, I put this is true for both physical and chemical processes. You do not need to write that part as long as you remember that. Now,
This confers. I really can't see that one. Can you see that one? Confers.
in both physical and chemical processes.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I get
Okay. We have. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12 more days till exam week, school days. But, yeah, I agree. So it's 11.
Right. Like when I think of like the
I'm caught up?
12 days in row, great.
I'm in that equal work right inside project.
Now,
Okay.
First, I said the introduction was like.
Yes.
are we there?
Yes, ma'am.
3 pages on introduction.
All right, so I put an equation up here. This is why I kept drawing 2 arrows last week.
Are we gonna draw that equation too?
Yeah.
Alright.
This right here, let me change colors.
This wall.
I think this is fairly obvious, but for those of you who don't think it's obvious,
Those are dots.
No 2 grams.
It's Baymax.
that is the forward reaction,
That one's reverse.
and this is the reverse. Okay? I think that's obvious. But for anybody who doesn't agree with me,
Annabelle.
all right, the arrow pointing to the right is the forward reaction. The one pointing to the left is the reverse reaction.
What is all that?
Now, when you have reversible arrows like that, those reactions imply that it's an equilibrium setup. Yes, my dear.
Why didn't the two and the four use?
Some reactions just don't, because if we reduce it, then you have NO2 goes to NO2. It's a different compound. Particularly when you do organic chemistry, a lot of those compounds, if we reduce the subscripts, they're all the same compound.
It's like a dot and then the arrow and then another dot.
So that's because that's the only way the arrow is drawn in Smart Notebook. It's just a feature in Smart Notebook. You don't have to have a dot. You can just draw an arrow. Okay? They don't have arrows that don't have dots in Smart Notebook. That's all.
What's that? That would have been nice to have like on the other end of it.
I don't have,
Like that specifically.
you're not gonna make it with 2 pages. I'm just telling you. Everybody got what they need?
I got it.
I don't like it.
No.
Now, we're gonna calculate K today. You're gonna do some math. The hardest part for most of you is gonna be the calculator. Okay? The math is not difficult. The calculator is the difficult part, because you have to punch it in and square, cube, and divide.
No, ma'am.
Sometimes we have to cross multiply and solve for one of the things that has a square or a cube on it.
That's how you said we're out of that.
Like, me too.
No. No, I said it would be intermingled in the
I don't remember that word.
Intermingled. Next, later this week or, no, probably
I
next
thought you
week.
were in.
It'll be next week. We're gonna calculate molarity and
I didn't say two, I think twice.
volume and a molarity equation, some moles again.
You don't just.
So we're gonna do some more math next week. So it does not matter how much of any reactant or product you start with, equilibrium can be achieved. So if you think about our liquid vapor system, if we increase the temperature, what happened to evaporation? The evaporation increased, right? So what happened to our amount of water? Did our amount of water go up or down? It decreased, right? And our vapor did what? It increased. So we can change the amount of water vapor and the amount of actual water we had. This is what I'm talking about here. Our amount of reactant or product can change, but equilibrium can still be achieved, all right? So we might have more reactant or we might have less reactant. It doesn't affect equilibrium, okay? Does that make sense? So the amounts of reactant and product do not matter.
It's why you should let me come teach you business science class, since I know
Okay,
that.
we don't need that. Say what?
So you should let me teach you business science class, since I know that.
Probably could.
Yeah, I get the answers on the opening right that one day I wrote them on the board.
I had to go back and erase all that.
I know. I was just seeing if I got it right.
I didn't look at them. All I did was erase.
Oh.
All right.
I thought that made
Now, we're going to write K today. First of all, K is not going to represent kelvins, so it shouldn't be an issue. K is unitless. So for those of you who tend to forget units, you should like this because there's no unit. K is called the equilibrium constant. And K does not depend on concentration. It is only dependent on temperature. Okay, so temperature will always be given, but we never calculate with it. It's just always in the problem. Yes, Rosanna.
I was gonna ask if this is still on the equilibrium
Yep.
constant. but-
All of it, go. K is called the equilibrium constant. That's the
It
shorthand for
doesn't
it.
depend on concentration, it only depends on temperature.
Only depends on temperature. So when we calculate it, it'll say calculate the equilibrium constant like 325 Kelvin. If you change the temperature to 350, that equilibrium constant is no longer valid. So it will always give you the temperature, but we will never plug the temperature in to calculate it.
equilibrium wrong this whole time.
What? Those numbers on that thing are outrageous. Just saying.
Well, lab report.
Oh, yeah.
As
Yeah.
long as you calculate it correctly, then you're
I
good.
hope I did. I was struggling.
Right.
So
Outrageous.
Outrageous.
It would be nice if they're good, since I'm gonna try to grade those with dark solid brackets.
Well,
Mine's a bright blue, or like it's this pin blue, so.
I mean, since you do a lot, why
Sorry,
don't everybody
everybody
running for
runs.
a tempting good, you know?
Right.
I agree.
No, I'll be balancing the calculator and the papers on my lap in the auditorium chair while I.
Why are you
Great.
there?
Why am I there? Because I'm stupid.
Are you team mom or like dance
Yeah.
mom or something?
Yes.
It's so, imagine if.
Why don't you just drop her off?
Yeah, she was. I told her that this year. Why do I need to go? She was by herself.
I didn't even let my mom go to any of my volleyball games.
I was perfectly content not going. I was a little annoyed that I had to go. Now,
Whoa!
go back. Why? With what? Do I what? I used to, but I discovered that I really like to sleep in on Sunday mornings, and I don't like to get up. If they would move church to like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's so much work for me. I 10 a.m. stuff, I just can't do it.
I'm not getting out of my bed for that. Girl, we gotta listen to God.
Yeah, God bless you. I'm sorry, but
Excuse me, but I go to church at 11:30.
we know you do. Bye.
I go to Sunday school.
I struggle at 11:30. I really need like 3 o'clock. The Lord knows my Lord.
Girl, Bob.
I don't have to.
My mama plays God on TV.
You tripping.
Alright, so if we look at this fake equation, okay? Fake. Yeah, fake. So the little letters stand for the what?
A number.
Gas, and gas.
The, not the gas.
It's the
Got
bowl. The
Baby,
Yeah.
that.
that. Okay. Y'all are not that slow. Come on.
I got my thing.
Miss Ball, nobody paid attention to them. That little letter. I mean, she got it right. They little.
And then the
These are the coefficients.
I got your back as well.
Alright, these would be the compounds. Okay? So, the capital letters are the compounds. The little letters are the coefficients. Now, the G's that Rosanna yelled out are the states. Okay?
The sticks.
The states.
Oh, I heard the thing.
Why is there a
So, there are 3 rules to write K. First of all, it has to be the product over the reactants. Has to be. You cannot put the reactants on top. Products have to be in the numerator,
a fraction.
a fraction.
Why are we bringing
I
fractions?
didn't hear that.
Why are we bringing
It's a torture technique for teenagers.
It's not torture. It's just.
Guys, you get a calculator.
They don't know if you don't know what to put.
It's not like you have to reduce it and write it lowest term. You're putting the numbers in and punching it in the
Not
calculator.
yet. We don't have.
I'm gonna tell Shelby to put like salt in your
I just
coffee.
noticed that you
I don't drink coffee.
I'm gonna tell her to do salt in it. I'm gonna look up Frank's.
Do you drink Monsters?
No. So it's gonna look like this. Okay?
I'm not gonna
The brackets, the little brackets represent concentrations. Okay, that's all the brackets stand for.
Does it matter if those G's are in parentheses?
No,
I keep putting.
That's why Destiny called you a monster.
I don't care.
I said you
I'm
are
sure she
the
turned
monster
worse.
and the monster in the drinks. Okay,
Okay.
that's why you don't need one. Does that make it worse? Does that make it better?
No.
It's okay, it don't matter.
We'll be alright.
Right, she ain't gonna die.
Don't leave Miss Wall alone.
She don't care. She wants to all the haters.
You're a pest.
She does.
Who calls
Well,
you?
you cannot go.
You know, Ebony Horton, she calls me a pest.
And when you are
I know you
best.
are.
Y'all still love me though.
Now, all coefficients become exponents. Are you wearing bedroom shoes?
Girl, these got soles on the bottom, they don't count.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I was.
All coefficients
Like the
become
moon.
exponents. All right. All coefficients become exponents.
These notes sound bad. They're not color coordinated, they're just colors. Whoops.
Usually I wear socks,
Okay.
I take them off, but I ain't got any socks.
So all coefficients become exponents. And number 3, the only states we include are gases and aqueous.
Just looking at that makes me not quite it so much.
All right. We only include gases and
So you
aqueous.
can only do this on gas.
That's right. So solids and liquids are constant, so we're going to cancel those out.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Concentration
Huh?
or product is.
Yeah, that's the number we're going to put in. It's going to be a concentration that's in the word problem. That's what the brackets stand for, is concentration.
Oh, I know.
That's the math number they're going to give us in the word problem. It's going to be a concentration. It's going to say moles per liter.
So you should let me stand up on this.
No.
Yesterday.
No.
That was funny. He said, Nigel, get down from there.
You want to jerk and not him this walk?
I don't think it'll do any good.
That's what one of my coworkers said. I was like, jerk and not.
It's an old expression.
Miss Wall, I like heels, but I feel like whenever I put them on, I'm like a 6-foot giant. I don't know about that.
You're pretty tall.
I know,
Do
and
you wear heels as well?
Are you going to
Not
the
very
Rotary?
sadly.
I think I would.
I'm not smart enough.
Because I was going to wear heels, but I was like,
I think I want to wear heels, but at the same time,
Are you
Even go.
I've just been in there for 3 years, like, it looked like I was dumb because the AP grades didn't go into
I didn't. I
the end of the year.
had an 80 AP class. Somebody
Sophomore
they
year,
got an AP
eight.
class that didn't work.
Junior year,
So I was like,
I don't know what happened.
But she's making
this happened. This class, the pre-calc happened. Last semester,
I was doing so good last
semester.
semester.
Other than A question, now A question is so up here, and she is the reason my GPA is gonna.
Are you saying that?
No, just now.
And twice.
Miss White, we don't know you.
And the W's. I'm not taking Wicker's class because if it's not with the W's, then.
Miss Wall,
I think you like
the
this
four
one.
inches.
You said, where's the difference between class and W's?
Anatomy.
I know, but that's a W.
Alright.
White, wall, there's the decimal.
All right, everybody got it?
No.
I know.
All right, so if we want to write this expression, all right, let me get rid of where it says concentration. First of all, you have to write K equals. Okay, you have to write K equals. Now, what are my products?
A and B.
These are not products.
See? No,
Okay,
Oh,
we have to be on this side.
my bad. C and D.
O
And P.
and P. Put them in brackets.
What?
Whoops, my bracket.
I'm trying to follow you, Miss Wall.
All right, O and P are the compounds.
Okay.
Okay, you put them in brackets.
Okay.
Over, what are my reactants now?
M&M.
M and N.
M&M. Yeah.
Now, the next thing we need are all coefficients become exponents. All right, all coefficients become exponents. So what coefficient is in front of O?
C.
So C is the coefficient. What coefficient is in front of P? So D. What coefficient is in front of M? And what coefficient is in front of N?
B.
B. Now, you check their states. Only gases and aqueous stay. If you have a solid or a liquid, you mark them out and get rid of them. So check your states. They're all gases, so they all stay. Okay? Question.
These are going to be names, aren't they? How are you supposed to do
Now we're going to do them with real compounds.
So you settled them and then
But still, it's going to be like 2 and N.
No, we're going to do them with real compounds. That was just a fake equation. All right. So if we do, I already did that one. All right.
Okay, don't do that.
So if we do these two, they're real.
You say they're real?
Yeah, these are, have real compounds.
It's called as bricks out here.
All right. So if we write number 1,
Where's that 3 and 2?
that's so it's balanced. This is an example. With real compounds instead of fake ones.
Alright, the ones under, what is that? Is it 2 examples or what?
That's the oxidation number.
There's 2 examples wrong.
I think.
Why do you have the gray?
Is that oxidation numbers?
Because we don't need what's up there.
Okay.
Alright, so if we do example number 1, what are my products?
Oh.
3.
Which O?
The O on the right side.
O2.
O2. This is O3. This is O2. So which one is the product?
O2.
O2.
So O2, K equals O2 over O3 is the reactant. All right, so there's the products divided by the reactants. Yeah,
Why does the coefficients not go with them?
I'm getting ready to do that part. I'm just doing them in the order of the steps.
Oh,
All right, so step 2, the coefficients become the, so what is my exponent on O2? And what is my exponent on O3? Now, if any of them are liquids or solids, we take them out. Are any of them liquids or solids?
No.
So they both stay.
And that's the answer?
And that's the answer for writing the equilibrium constant expression.
So we haven't gotten to solving.
No, that's next.
Uh-oh.
Okay, all we've done is write
They
the.
even have those type of brackets on the schedule? Oh, never mind, I see it. Never mind.
Now, they might give you a question that easy on the exam. It might just ask you to write the expression. They might ask you to solve and put numbers in. We're going to do it both ways. And it's not that cold. All right, so if we look at 2, the first thing you should be able to say about 2 is, are the states all liquids or all gases and aqueous? No. So we're going to mark somebody out. All right, so what are my products? All right, CaCO3. What are my reactants? CaO, CO2. All right, now I see no coefficients. What's the first thing I would double check since there are no coefficients in that? I wouldn't check the oxidation numbers, but I would check the coefficients to make sure it's balanced. Okay? 1 Ca, 1 Ca, 1 C, 1 C, 2 plus 1 is 3, 3. It is balanced. But when I see there's no coefficients, I would probably double check to make sure the equation is balanced. Okay? If you see coefficients, you can assume that it's balanced correctly. The state is not going to balance the equation wrong to trip you up.
Oh, that
Nice.
makes
I'm sure.
freaking rude.
All right, so since there are no coefficients, we have no exponents, right? So, states, you only keep aqueous and gas. Solids and liquids cancel out. So who are we canceling out? CaO and? All right, so K equals, what do I put on the top when there's nothing there? So 1 on top. What's left on the bottom? CO2. And that's your equilibrium constant expression that's left.
What's the purpose of this?
We're getting ready to plug numbers in to calculate K.
So,
Can it stop?
Are we okay with how to write it?
Yes.
You really?
I like it.
Yeah, are you okay with how to write K? So we can plug numbers in now.
Can I say in jail because a lot of kids think I'm a big head.
Yes, you may. That's some friendly friends back there.
I didn't say that.
She misses me.
She said that.
Okay.
yeah.
Straight to work at 12.
Well,
Oh, wait, I already got one.
Rhonda, you're so cute.
Why you like
I'm taking your
Should be like this week.
advice.
I think it's next week.
My advice.
We said May 14th.
You got my
How do they, yeah, how do they do that?
What?
Write those so we can put
Like,
up. Like, B?
Miss Wall, what is that?
Write it down.
I don't
It looks worse than it is because of your face.
Okay, so we probably got about the ACO3,
Yep,
but we left it 2 because it's not 1, get the 2.
we did what now?
I felt.
Okay.
We canceled out this and this because it had a solid and it had a solid.
Yeah, but what happens to the CO3? Like, that one, it's the ACO3 and that one's the AO.
Yeah, yeah, because it's a solid. Because it's a solid, it had to go. Because it's a solid, it had to go.
Hold on. Maybe that 2 right there. That's why. Okay, so I'm canceling out, like, I'm just.
You're canceling out because it's because the solid state.
Solids can't do it.
You cancel out any solids or liquids.
Okay.
Okay, you only keep gases and aqueous. Okay, write it down. It's not that long. It's because of the spacing.
So do you want us, what do you even want us?
I want you to write it down, and then we're gonna solve it.
Write
So you
what
have a
name?
sample.
The whole
It's
thing.
all one question. That's one question.
It's a whole problem.
It's a problem. One singular question. We're gonna do 2, and then you're gonna practice. I'll look up Cheyenne's grade.
Wait, how many questions is that?
1. We just got over this.
Well, I was still trying to figure out this problem.
Zone in, Rosanna, come on.
Not that hard. Write it down.
You need to
Stop
put
the
my
time.
energy drink.
I don't drink. Oh, you don't, nobody want that nasty.
It's not nasty, it tastes like Kool-Aid.
It's so cold. It's so lovely.
Still spilling equilibrium. He even signed it out.
Just walk me some more.
Yes.
Oh my god. Just walk. What in the world?
This is one singular problem. The second forever, right?
This class was a question for
No, not this class. Freak out.
What is
I gotta get
That makes me four different combos. Who does
Then I realized.
Yeah.
Really?
Are you failing?
Are you failing?
Well, I'm taking the answers
Talk about this now.
How are you doing?
Who? Me? Well, we need that.
Why is it not 2 arrows?
Because I was struggling to get up there with that. Anything you see that doesn't have 2 arrows, assume it's 2.
Right now.
Assume it's 2.
Yeah,
The 2 arrows.
the 2 arrows.
One back and forth.
Uh-huh.
Entirely.
Oh, that's the way.
Hey, do you have 11 openings?
See, that's what happened, right? I thought the one Friday was still there, so that's why.
Why? I know I've counted these like 4 times, and I keep getting 11.
Well, she felt like.
Oh my God.
Extra credit, yes,
All right, do we have it written?
No, silly.
Dudes, it does not take that long to write for a line.
You get to type it up. We gotta write it down. It's different.
No, it's not.
It is.
All right, so if we write K,
No,
Use
you
on both, use on both.
I am just
How
gonna
are
go.
you gonna ask and then not even pertain to it? Like,
So K equals.
does it matter which arrow goes on
Which-
top? I asked a question.
No.
H2O.
So what are my products?
H2O and
So H2O and
CL2.
Cl2.
I'm so lost.
All right. What are my reactants?
HCl.
HCl and, so for the people who just said, I'm so lost. So after really 15 weeks in here, you can't find the reactants and the products?
No, I just read the question and I'm lost. Like whenever I write it, I don't read it. I'm just writing. I just write
Okay,
it
it says determine the equilibrium constant for the expression. Okay? The equilibrium constant is K. Okay? The equilibrium constant is K. So we have to write K.
So are we just gonna put the numbers where the
Where the parentheses are, yes. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to put the numbers where the parentheses are. You do your thing. Now, after we put reactants on top, products on the bottom, what's step 2? Coefficients. Very good, Joyce. So, coefficients. Does anybody have a coefficient? Yep. Water has a what? And Cl2 has a what? And HCl has a what? And oxygen has a, so we're not going to put anything on. So, do I have anybody I need to cancel out? No. They're all gases. So everybody stays. Now, to quote Linda, she said, do all we have to do is plug the numbers in? The answer is yes. What are you doing?
I'm tired of breaking my neck, and so I'm FaceTiming myself, and I can see the board
He's a
now.
crackhead.
guess what?
I was thinking a whole different word, but okay. No, it wasn't what I was going with, but okay. Now, so if we look at the numbers on here, all right, what number does H2O have up here for its concentration? 5.8 times 10 to the negative second. Put it in the
And
parentheses.
then you use exponents.
And then you say squared, because it says what right here? Squared. Now you look up Cl2's number in the question. What number does Cl2 have? The same number. So 5.8. Make that bracket a little bigger there.
So why didn't it,
Times 10 to the negative second.
I
And
got a question.
squared. Yes, dear.
I was just saying, couldn't you just make that to the power of more?
You could. I'm just plugging it in exactly as it appears in K so that it doesn't confuse anybody. But if your math skills are such and you want to do that, knock yourself out.
No, I wouldn't necessarily say.
You got these from the problem?
I just am trying to make it as simple as possible.
I had no.
All right. So
I can't believe this is working.
the next one is HCl. So back to the question. Find HCl's number. HCl has what? 1.23 times 10 to the negative third. 1.23 times 10 to the negative third. All right. And its exponent is what? 4?
It's 1.2.
Huh?
It's 1.2.
Oh, 1.2. All right. And the last one, we need O2, and it is 3.8. All right. And now that I've got the exponents written in, I'm going to change them in color.
What? Oh. So we just put this all in the calculator and then.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not working when I put it in the calculator.
That's all we do is put them in the calculator. Now, I will tell you that when I put them in the calculator, I say divide, and I say divide. I don't use parentheses, okay?
We're dividing.
This one I'm going to multiply because it's on top.
Yeah, I did that.
I'm not going to use parentheses.
Well, I'm using
Divide by this, divide by this. They're both in the denominator.
But I thought brackets and parentheses were different things.
You don't need to use the parentheses. Now, if you want to multiply these two things on the bottom, then you need parentheses. But the brackets don't need to be there. The brackets are only there to say these are concentrations for the problem. They're not actually there for a math reason. It's just shorthanded chemistry.
Divided at the bottom.
Yeah, both of those are in the denominator, so you're dividing.
So, okay, it's gonna be 5.8 and then second EE.
All right, so 5.8 second EE negative 2
Alright.
squared times 5.8 second EE negative 2 squared. I hit equals because I'm totaling the top 1.1 times 10 negative fifth.
It keeps
Wait,
saying
this ball.
error. Since the negative fifth, I got negative 3.
Well, negative 5
This is.
I
divided by
had 10, not
1.2
This wall.
second EE negative 3. Now I got to use my up caret key for the 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Raised
Maybe I
to
forgot
4 divided by 3.8 second EE negative 4.
Wait, don't say that.
What do you got for the first?
Right, don't say it, don't say it.
Let us get it.
Can you show me what I'm doing wrong?
Can you show me what I'm doing?
Let's walk around.
Wait a second.
Wait a
Why on earth do you have all those brackets in?
You said put brackets.
I did not. I said quit using all those brackets.
Told us to do
I
that.
told you that's just shorthand for chemistry. You do not need all that crap. 5.8 second EE negative 2
That's what I got.
squared
Yeah, I'm smart.
Yes, you
times
are.
5.8 second EE squared.
Let's see. I got 2,000.
So since error,
and
it's
I got
73,
3.6.
that's
I got
I got
adjustable.
1.43.
5.8 second
Put it over a
negative
finger.
2
Yeah.
Square.
Well, times 10 to
times
whatever.
5.8 second
This
EE
was a
negative 2
catastrophe.
What did you get?
Oh, I know what I did.
I know what you got.
Now you divide by the top.
I got 2,000.
Maybe not like my probably got 2007 for it.
Well, you guys are wrong.
What's wrong? Let me see what you got.
This probably has this.
I did it all.
I did it all in my head.
You see right here? See how you said times that number? You should say divide that number. No, you need to. Guys, those of you who got that 2,073, you messed up your order of operations. You said divide here, and then you said multiply here. You cannot do that. You're going to need parentheses if you're going to do that. You're dividing by both numbers on the bottom. You cannot divide by this number because the calculator is getting this answer divided, calculating it, and then it's multiplying by this number. You got to divide by both of those numbers. That's the way it works in the order of operations.
That's not how it works.
It is.
What's wrong?
Break my neck to the right nose.
What's wrong?
Look at that. Look at how I did that with all the brackets, and I still got it right. Yep.
You still don't need all those brackets or parentheses. You're going to see that.
I'm not cooking. Really nasty because that chicken pie every day.
Quit with that. Stop. Sorry. All right, put up my phone. Stop number.
I just had an R&B before. I just really
No.
All right.
Wait.
Two numbers on the bottom. 1.2.
Can you read what it says?
Divide.
I hope you're laughing at
Divide. This number.
I'm literally wearing these. Oh, baby, I'm wearing a pair of pants.
Okay, they're both in the denominator. It's divided by both. It works every day of the week. They're both
And
in
if
the
I don't have
denominator.
these
Divide.
out,
Okay? Who else has got it wrong?
if I know.
Okay, yeah.
Keep going to church, they go.
If I know
Hey, 30 dollars or 30?
God help us all. Let's try this. We gotta try it.
Wait, hold on.
She helped me out.
Oh, that's right, Mommy. If we struggle with that one, I don't even want to try this one, but let's be brave.
Why does it have a temperature?
Because K depends on temperature. It always gives the temperature because K is dependent on it. We never use the K. It had a temperature. didn't it?
At a specific temperature. Are we gonna keep it practice?
Yeah, you have to have a temperature.
How many more practice questions?
This is the only other one we're doing. Then you're getting them on worksheet.
Is this any different?
Yes. This one is different. So I said, I hesitate to try this one after the calculator errors of the last one.
Hey,
You erase the board. Right here is 1.6.
I have trouble.
You have extra on the board.
White out.
I say you got feed too.
Annabelle, white out.
So we have.
Okay. Don't throw.
No, if you would, it would hit me so all over.
She thought how funny it was.
Miss Law, are you gonna be at the Rotary Breakfast tonight?
I am not. I will be at dance practice.
Oh.
That's fine. Be quiet.
What?
Enjoying every minute of it.
What? Where did she dance at?
I'm gonna tell her no.
Bobby
Somewhere.
School of Dance. in
Girl, I'm
Thomasville.
gonna drop you
Where?
off.
Bobby School of Dance in Thomasville.
Bobby.
What she did? What kind of dancing is that?
She largely does tap, but she also does some jazz and lyrical.
She does some.
You should be.
I'm
not going, baby. I'm just not.
I'll be at the
That's
recital.
like they put me to sleep. The jazz
Right.
music. Oh, right.
I'll be there at y'all performance. That's it.
Have you ever
My
gone
mom-
to one of her performances?
My mom was at Tech Week because she signed up to be the mom of Oklahoma, but whenever I did Andy, she was like, absolutely not. And I was in 5th grade and she still would not come. She was like, I will be back in the Civic Center to pick you up.
The competition's not bad because, that's in, out, people are moving all around. You can play on your phone and whatnot. The recital is 3 hours of showtime, dead quiet, silence.
Yeah,
That's
it's not
the
fun.
little
Marilyn
rule.
did dance and then she absolutely hated it.
Miss Wall, the equation's not.
I didn't cry.
I know.
Do we need to balance it?
That's why sometimes I will not. That's why I said, if you don't see coefficients, check. Alright, so has everybody had a chance to write?
No.
Okay.
Has anybody balanced it?
Yeah,
You have done this with so many
I'll do it
times.
to my sister.
It's 1,
3-2. Not many other people.
3,
Every day.
2.
you was trying to deflect somebody and they gon' deflect you. Yeah, they gon'
I'm gonna go with them. I'm gonna be
2 arrows.
Yeah, these all have 2 arrows. Alright, so when you look at the equation, as several people have pointed out, if you do not see a coefficient, double check. Don't assume it's balanced. Always check to see if there should be
It's not.
coefficients or if it's balanced.
It needs to be balanced.
So when you look at it, you've seen this a lot. This one actually has a name. It's called the Haber process. All right?
What?
It's called the Haber process. Haber, Haber. Now, everybody should be able to put a 1, a 3, and a 2 there at this point. At this point in our science, if we cannot balance that equation, don't tell me. I need to believe on exam day that everybody in this room can balance that.
Well, I can't balance that equation.
It takes me a little, it takes me 1 second, then I realize.
Don't want to know. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, then.
The thing that makes this one different,
I need to go back to my.
the equilibrium constant is this number.
So they give
Okay? I have given you what?
the K.
I have given you the K. Okay?
What'd you get? Wait, what?
I have given you K.
So we're working backwards.
So,
Why we
we're solving for N.
What do you mean?
We still have to write K. I'm just telling you how the problem is different.
I knew right.
Look, I hate pre-cal.
This is not pre-cal.
Well, I hate math.
That's what it seems like.
K equals. How do I write K given that equation? What's my product?
6? Oh, never mind.
And H.
NH3. What goes on the bottom? N2 and H2. Do I have any coefficients? Annabelle, shut up. 2 on what? And what on, I heard a 3, what goes on what?
H2.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
All right. This is why I said to you, I gave you the what?
Okay.
I gave you the K. Because this time, we need to plug it in for K instead of the brackets. At the top, I told you, minimize or change the orientation there. The equilibrium constant is what?
K is the variable for.
K is the equilibrium constant.
Oh,
So-
okay, so that's after you plug it in.
I'm telling you that K is 6.59 times 10 to the negative third.
Okay, that makes sense.
And we
Okay.
can say K is a unitless quantity. so
It's a
when we get
unitless
the
quantity.
answer, we don't have to put,
Now, we would not put a unit on K. We're solving for nitrogen.
so we
So
would.
nitrogen's unit will be moles over liters, like the other things that have those units. Now, NH3 has what number? 1.23 times 10 to the negative fourth.
What?
All right, what coefficient did it have? It's got a what over there? It's got a 2, so it's squared. Over N2, we don't know, so I'm just going to write N2. That's what they asked me to find. H2 has what number? And it has what on it for a coefficient? It's cubed.
Exponent.
As an exponent of 3. Now, at this point, you have done all the chemistry.
Okay, but this is hard now.
All you have is algebra. It's not even pre-cal.
How do you do it?
Are you just dividing?
You
Dividing.
You're cross-multiplying and dividing,
That's what I like to do.
okay? You're going to cross-multiply,
Wow.
and then we're going to divide,
Well, give us a minute. Give us.
Yeah, don't answer it.
okay? All I'm going to do is the cross-multiplying piece,
And that's gonna be the answer.
okay? And then I'm going to divide. So I'm going to have 6.59 times 10 to the negative third times N2,
So
Oh,
X.
you just write that, okay.
and then times 2.75 times 10 to the negative 6, that is cubed.
Don't write the.
And then I have 1.23 times 10 to the negative fourth, that is squared. So I cross multiplied and I got rid of my fraction. Is everybody okay with that?
Jesus Christ, I don't think I did that right.
So then anybody get 1 point, oh, sorry.
Okay.
You wait now, sorry, my bad.
Hold on. Is everybody okay with what we divide by, or do I need to actually write that on the board?
Give me 1 second. Let us.
Y'all calculate. I'll just write.
What? I'm gonna beat you. That was a nice threat.
Right, I'm like, okay, let me just be quiet.
I was like, wait, what?
It's swallow, don't figure it out. Come on.
Dude, all I'm doing is writing the work on the board.
Right. Oh,
I mean, if you don't want to see the work, don't look up here.
well, we.
Okay, I got an answer. We're gonna see. Answer what?
I haven't calculated it. I've been writing the work down.
Let's go. My stripe jaw. It was sunny like 2 minutes ago, I swear. I swear.
Is it raining?
Not supposed to.
Well, it's raining all at once.
What'd you get?
Oh.
Just make Chick-fil-A slow, so.
That's probably what I'm gonna do. Yes.
What'd you get?
1.10 0 times 10 to the negative to the 11.
My chicken balls. I don't know. That's okay.
Okay, but yeah.
It's
Did you get it right,
in
Annabelle?
there, because I had to do it right.
Yeah.
Yep. So I got that right. I'm actually really proud of myself.
No.
I would have got it right. Miss Wall.
And it says
Like, no, I ain't
At least, well, they don't have to.
You can leave that
They
attitude
just
at
have to
home.
be
You
around.
have the attitude.
I
Come
will
with
run
me.
you over.
You know the car.
I can drive my mama's.
I got my big truck.
I'm gonna get you that.
What?
I said, these don't have to be exact, they just have to be.
They have to be pretty close. I mean, given they're the exact same numbers that we're all using, they should be pretty
It's
close.
like 1.2.
1.2 times 10 to the 11th. That would be fine.
1.11 times 10, 11, look, I got it.
All right. Are we okay with that? All right.
Oh, you burst my brain. I didn't burn.
No.
What is that?
I don't think we need that. All right.
We do one more, because we didn't get the first one.
I'm going to give.
I didn't write it down.
That's not what I meant to do.
Miss biology. I know.
All right. Let's talk about what K means, and then we're going to practice.
We already talked about what K means.
No, we need to talk about what the K number stands for. And then we're going to practice. We're not quite there. We're almost there.
13 days, bro.
All right. So what does K tell us? Once you get a number. So we've calculated K, not this last problem. That was N. All right. What does K mean? Okay. K can actually be three things. And I only have two of them up here. K can be, and I put two greater than signs. So what does that actually mean when I put two greater than signs? Extra greater.
Murderous.
K is much greater.
Super.
And this means K is much less.
Deluxe.
K is the lowest.
K is the number one with American cheese.
No, man.
Shut up.
The big thing.
The big man.
All right, so if K is much greater, it means the forward reaction is favored. You have lots of products and very little reactants. Or you can say that equilibrium lies to the right.
So we got to write all of
Yep. I'm going to give you a question in a minute and ask you some things and see if you understand what I just wrote up there.
Well, we don't. Miss Wall, we have a quiz tomorrow, right? Is it multiple choice?
Nope.
Because, like,
Who?
Does that? Oh,
oh, I won't be here, thank God, and just get a 0.
Honestly, if you.
Now remember, those of you who have missing work or will not be here tomorrow, you have today to make it up, tomorrow to make it up, next Monday, and next Wednesday. Come next Wednesday, if it's not made up, it stays a what?
0.
Stays a 0.
Next Monday, I can't speak English. Like, next Monday and Wednesday, and the last day is 6
Yep, I mean, this whole work is next Wednesday.
Quiz from yesterday, are those in yet?
Yeah, yesterday.
That's why my brain went down to looking. Yesterday, I don't know.
Now, the quiz from yesterday, there was nothing on it from Friday. All right?
Really? Then I could have took it. Why didn't you say that? You said, if you yeah, Miss Wall.
Y'all were all incensed and said we weren't here. We didn't want to take it. I wasn't going to make you
I
take
don't
it.
remember what we did.
Right, I'm just.
It was through potential energy graphs.
Well, I do not understand that at
I
all.
wasn't here on Thursday. I was here on Friday.
Oh, well.
But can I make it up at lunch? Cause like
What lunch?
I'm second.
Yes, you can. Just walk in. She won't send you out.
I don't know.
It'll be really quick. I don't know the answers anyway, so like.
Yeah, it'll be like that test that you're supposed to come back and finish the.
Yeah, I am. I'm
Still
coming
laying on my
tomorrow.
desk?
You said if you're gonna eat a long time, come Wednesday. So I said okay.
Oh, so you're coming Wednesday?
Yeah. Come on,
Okay.
come here.
What?
This what
Tomorrow.
yesterday I can care less.
My grade is 6.
Yesterday's quiz that starts
So I'm gonna
there,
make up this test.
there, goes, goes. Yeah, there.
Because
Like, oh, it's
like
all
It's
all, it's like stressing me out.
Wait,
Don't be like, okay, you got her.
right. We're not just finished the first one.
Who's yelling don't go?
I'm usually up to speed, but my brain.
Your paper was struggling?
No, because my binder is very, very
Charlie doesn't have
full.
a check.
Oh,
And
okay.
And then she almost like moved her hand. What? Little ring.
Okay. The paper struggling is not usually a reason I get.
Like he loves to work. It's just like he just gets the days that he actually.
And he's always been like that. He just like.
There must be
Lynn
like-
would be like, hey, what do you have?
Okay.
I'm like, oh, 2025. Hey, I need to go to work. Like,
LaShawn LeRae.
Yeah, we're gonna do it, but I don't know if we'll get to him today.
Oh, we already did LaShawn LeRae. What we gotta get that?
Yes, we did. We gotta do the hard part of Le Chatelier. Le Chatelier. All right, let's say that we have the same equation we had a second ago. Because I can.
No, you really can't.
That's all I want you.
I'm not in school though. Can you like
Oh, Miss Walker, I say something.
guess who's hungry? You. Guess who cares? Nobody. Joyce does. Joyce cares about. No. Cares about my little bee. Joyce cares about me and my little bee. No, she really doesn't.
All right. So if we had that reaction, what would our container have the most of? All right, our equilibrium constant is 215. What would we know about our container? All right, we have more products, so what would our container have?
Energy.
All right, Rosanna said there are more products. All right, so if we know there are more products, tell me what we have more of.
Forward reaction.
All right, you just said there are more products, so we cannot have the forward reaction. What direction are we going if we have more products?
Backwards.
Okay, people.
Right, to the right, to the right, to the right. To the
Woo!
right. To the right.
All right, if we make products, okay, that has to mean that's the forward reaction. All right, if we go this direction, that's the reverse direction, and we're making reactants. So,
We just answered your question.
if you say you made more products, okay, look at what's up there. So what products are we making?
We're making.
Hydrogen, ammonia.
There we go. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
So we have more ammonia in the container.
That's it.
How do we know what?
There's more products.
Okay. So, Rosanna, was it just a guess or did you know?
I did know because there's.
No, she is.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
I was hoping she knew.
I promise you, because that's the product, and that's.
Like
Yeah,
like
and there's
that, like
four.
that way.
There's four on the product side. Hold on.
That's not the reason.
She
That's
was
how I saw it. That's how I.
There's more of that one because
Because, does anybody know the reason why?
because it's a compound and not separate.
I don't know. That's possible.
What about this?
Because
And
K is
this would tell us.
K is more than one.
What number is K?
K's a unit of product.
215.
That's your thing. I don't get it.
What does that have to do?
I don't get it.
Yes.
K is much greater than 1.
Oh.
That's right. If K was much less than 1, it would tell us it was the reactants. Because K is much greater than 1, that's what told us it went to the right and we had a bunch of products. Okay? So, since we know we have a bunch of products, our container is full of ammonia and we have very little. That's right. So, there's very little reactants.
So you said it went to the right?
Sorry, it went to the left. Went to the product side, the right. Yeah, right.
Pull it to the right.
Yeah, right. Sorry, in my head I have left and right backwards.
Miss Wall, if a student asked you to hold a gun, would you do it?
No.
Oh my God.
I'm telling you now.
Story that a student asked a teacher to hold the gun, and then he came back and picked it up, and then he told on her.
I'll tell y'all now, I'm the head snitch. I will not put my job in jeopardy to protect y'all. Now, if someone comes in with a gun and I'm asked to put my life in front of y'all's, yes, I would probably do that. I know. You never know what's going to happen until that moment. That's why I said probably. However, I will not hold a weapon for you. I will post haste to Miss Curry, the resource officer, and hand that over.
I'm turning that fan on. I'm turning the gas on. I'm turning all the shit on.
I'm appalled that another professional would do that.
Gas on.
I'm sure she thought she had a good reason, but I can't imagine what it was. All right, moving on. So, if you had a number less than 1,
What? I'm gonna be like Pokemon, and I'm gonna ball up paper, and I'm gonna stick it next to the gas and just throw it. It's gonna be fireballs, and I'm gonna be like,
We can use that magnesium and catch them on fire with that.
I'm telling you. Short of barring the door, what is the best thing that we have in here is a weapon.
the exit.
The fire extinguisher.
I got you. I'm gonna get everybody.
Who's picking that junk up, though?
Dude, aside from swinging it, pull the pin and spray it.
I'm not dying.
Well, that's up to you and her, so somebody.
I'm just telling you.
Well, she's getting the fire extinguisher. She can get it on her boat.
Right? If we had to defend ourselves, we have weapons in the room. But in terms of something that's easy, the fire extinguisher is the easiest thing we have.
And that thing.
Simply because you can hide, it's got a hose, and there are chemicals that are coming out that are going to blind someone. They can't see to aim. Okay? That's just easy.
Have you ever been?
Okay, can we get back to chemistry? Cause
I've been trying to play this thing out just in case.
Me too. Because I feel like that should be a mandatory thing in the first day class. You plan to make you have jobs. It's
It could. Now, the one thing we didn't talk about is what if K is approximately equal to 1?
George, you gotta go.
Okay, what would happen if K is approximately equal to 1?
It'll be.
What would happen here if it's approximately equal to 1? No? You'd have approximately equal amounts of both reactants and products. Okay? Now, the reason that we're talking about this, do you remember when we did the evaporation condensation
Yes.
and we increased the temperature? What happened to our evaporation?
It increased.
It increased. What happened to our amount of water? It decreased. You had less water and you had more vapor, right? We could figure out how much water and vapor there was, and we could figure out amounts. We have no way to do that with this except for the size of K. So if K is large, we know what? We have more what if K is really big? We have more products. If K is really small, meaning less than 1, we know we have more what? Reactants. Okay? If K is approximately equal to 1, we have approximately equal amounts of both. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's what K could be used for us right now, without us taking an upper level class. Now, that brings us up to shifting equilibrium, which I'm going to save for tomorrow, because I have 2 sheets I want you to do for homework. It's not that hard, so stop whining.
Yes, it is. Mine don't- we didn't even have it. Oh.
Miss Wall, could you draw from up here?
Mine is-
Draw what?
Like on the board?
Yeah, I'm just not very good at it.
Just skin plate.
The paper that Madison's giving you has practice from Friday, for those of you who've been out. So you've got questions that were like the opening that Nylasia asked about. And then the one that Joyce is giving you as a front and back.
Yeah.
We have not worked with Chatelier as principal. So leave the back side of Joyce's sheet alone. You're only doing the math side. All right, you're doing 1 through 5 on Joyce's sheet, and you're doing all of the ones that Madison has.
Are you checking it?
It's very possible. I haven't checked homework in a few days. Might feel the tingle tomorrow. One of them might feel the tingle. That would be Joyce.
You skipped me.
I know.
What? You have to do it.
What absences? I believe you made up one day.
One day.
Dude, you don't sign in on the book every time you come. I don't correct you.
I wrote it down for the times this time.
Yes, and I added up the time, and I can look on the sheet that I filled out and what I turned in back there if you like.
So are you talking recent after hours?
So Joyce is one page.
I can tell you.
Joyce, we're doing what questions?
1 through 5.
You've done 3 days. Guys, you've done 3 days. 3 days.
How many have I done?
Alondra's done 3, Nadia's done 1, Sarah Lynn's done 1, Allie's done 1, Vitry's done 3, time days.
What about
Dylan's done 2,
What about Annabelle?
Kira's done 1. I'm just doing them in order that I see them. Caleb's done 3, Annabelle's done 3, Caleb's done 1, now that she's here.
Wait.
All of this one.
And Caleb, you also have 1 for ACT that I've turned in. Alondra's had 1 for ACT I've turned in. Remember, they don't deduct off the days in Power School. They will not subtract. Okay? You have to subtract those yourself. So I just told you you made up 3. So look at your days in Power School, subtract 3. Let's see where you're at.
Well, I'm scared.
I think I just missed days up there, so I know you did it.
You made up 3 for me. What are you on?
Then I did Sunday school like
Right. For me?
I did it for all of us.
Honestly, I was.
Okay. If you did them for all your classes, then I need to go see Miss Glass and see how much time she will give to me. Because what she'll do is she'll take all of the time and she'll divide it up to all 4 classes if you listen to all. And you don't get all of that time for me, and all that time for English, and all that time for AP/US. It doesn't work that way. You know, the 2.5 hours doesn't go to all 4 of us at once. You know, you don't get to quadruple dip.
Let's see how many absences I have.
Yeah.
You didn't balance.
You know, it only goes to 1 class at a time. Yes. So 1 class gets an hour, and then the next hour, another class gets an hour, and so forth and so on. But that 2.5 hours doesn't go to everybody at one time. When you say for Saturday school, it's like you made up 2.5 hours, or 2.5 days, or whatever it is. But it's 2.5 days. So let's say you did this past Saturday, and I got that 2.5 days. The last Saturday, Jessup could have that 2.5 days. And the previous Saturday, Hudgens could have that 2.5 days. But this past Saturday, I don't get 2.5, Jessup doesn't get 2.5, Hudgens doesn't get 2.5. It doesn't work that way. We don't all get 2.5 days. Only one of us gets that 2.5 days.
I mean, Miss Walls.
I mean, it's like when you stay for me for an hour after school, Jessica doesn't get the hour you stay for me. It doesn't work that way. Yes. Because the others cancel out. Come on, find me some answers. Because if y'all are not going to work on homework, because you're packed up, you're working on the shot of the attic. I don't need the break. I'm all good with moving on. I was trying to give you a chance to practice your homework and ask questions like, Linda just asked me one about how to do something. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is balanced, so we just like.
So it would just be no coefficients on the, when you put it in, yes,
Was this?
yes.
Okay.
And then plug in the numbers.
Miss
Now,
Wall,
remember,
how
because
much,
that's the liquid, what's going to happen.
Cancel out.
That's
how much
right.
would I have to pay to take a calculator? Because, when I try to put in, the scientific notation, it gives me.
Yeah.
You should let me borrow
Right, do you wanna take something that I have, something like,
Do the front page only, the other.
That's what some people do. But if we don't return them, you can, Miss Wall, if we don't return them, you can just be like Miss White. If she has four missing, we are in a pre-calc class and she won't let us use freaking calculators.
Not even for the quiz.
right, I mean, I'll bring it back, cause I don't got nothing else to do.
That's Thursday.
I'll think about it, come to me after school, I don't know.
I see you.
I don't know what you have valuable enough on your phones to make sure you my calculator.
I'm not
I
going.
know, that's not gonna happen,
let her use it
so.
on the test next time.
You can take my headphones, that's not, I kind of need them.
But,
Yeah, I can't.
So- I want to go to that's all that's all.
Look at these.
Get over there and do some work.
You got 100 hits on your chip?
Well,
I'll give you a shoe.
Sorry, down. I'm zero.
I can't balance.
I think that's.
Hey, the D is in there.
well,
So how are we supposed to?
Nope. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then,
I got next Monday and next Wednesday.
Miss Wall,
Anybody know how to
I got
balance?
next Monday and next Wednesday.
I put all three, but like, I don't know, cause like, it doesn't matter.
I mean, I know the competition is Thursday, but so I have 2 days next week.
See?
He.
Yeah, cause it's all the same ages and all the same levels.
Hey, do some work. It's not gonna matter if you make up any time, if you flunk outright.
Oh, wait, like,
Okay,
you don't
I
need
just say, so do the work.
But that means
Stop playing
that
on
there's
the
two
phone.
H's on that side and then,
Miss
oh,
Wall.
duh.
Yeah.
Miss Wall, you're the ask.
What?
Rain on the forest.
And they didn't let him say.
It's more all
Diane, Roseanne, come on, do some work.
Rosanna, come on, Rosanna.
Yeah, Roseanne. All right. I'm gonna change the name for a second.
Rosanna.
Even though this is forever.
What's the difference?
What is-
Rosanna and Rosanna?
English is
Together, it's still products. It's all right.
Terry.
Yes.
Actually, you have a your teacher and
At least a 93.
This?
And look at the note, they just.
The products, open the reactants. What are the products? You can't tell me the product. Okay, so put those two things on top. Yes. Shut up.
I'm looking at myself.
This equation goes back, and this equation goes back.
Don't forget the liquids and the solids.
For what?
Yeah, I was about to ask you.
I'm never helping you.
I know,
Getting up there.
What's this name? This still got to do with it. Is this thing going to C?
I believe so, that's what's familiar to me.
Number 5, on the balance.
Yeah.
Well, y'all do you. I said.
It doesn't give you what H2. I cannot be 8. I knew that I could have thrown a story. I did. I started, I just kicked out the wrong word. I am smart. So then you just multiply 250.
Yeah.
Chemistry is overrated.
I'm glad.
No, because it's not diatomic, it's an ion. Ions are never gonna have a two.
To get exactly at 90, you have to do it. Right now, you're at least.
Really, Rosanna? That's not important right now. You work.
According to me.
I don't care, just work.
I'm already done with this page. This is all.
Fabulous, do some math. Ooh,
Yeah. 2 + 2 is 4.
great, that's not important in the quiz.
Does this positive values?
No, stop.
Wait, well, why are all these zeros just
Anywhere in the really, it could go from anywhere.
Oh, this is a bit angry.
All colors.
What?
That's correct. Correct. Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty great. That's on semester 2.
Yeah. I think that's on several papers, so it should be. Let me see what you've gotten done.
I calculated.
Fabulous, that's all the quiz is on. Stop whining about what your grade is in here. No.
I had to figure out.
No, this was your chance to ask questions, to do a little work, to make sure you understood. And you had nothing about it. No, I don't want to hear it. Try doing some work in chemistry class, during chemistry class. All you do is write down notes.
That's enough?
But then,
It works with the best. All the way.
I think of it this way, it's inside, it's coming out.
You're missing.
You're not missing.
Yes, they are, because I do math right now. I have to check, so by the time I finish that, so that would be.
Really got 7 for me in the easy.
Gone.
Is anybody on the calculating using the equilibrium constant?
Say what now?
The other one is review.
They're gonna be
I was
5
that.
minutes, 10 late.
The calculation from it using the equilibrium constant.
What's
Number
trying to
one,
get
reason
wrong?
it, it's just like,
So, look up how to
y'all
do
know what
percentage.
wall it is?
Error. It's not hard, you can figure it out. Because it's the same, minus 10 now, is a little bit more.
0.0100. Can you get there?
Alright, if you guys still have a calculator, put it in the tub. You got about 10 minutes.
Miss Wall.
Yep.
What's
My credit right
Did I do this? I got 2.5. You